bear with me, Keith, as I go through a few of these,
Sure.
because some of them are quite verbose. But here we go. Gerard Dowdle says, I think we were the laughing stock of Europe last night. That embarrassed Scottish football. No team can get anywhere near us in the league, and we got absolutely pumped. Mark Moore, Celtic have to adapt for the Champions League with the way Dortmund played last night. We were never getting anything from the game, but you have to see what is in front of you and adapt and do the basics right. We were too high up the pitch, and they were playing through the press with ease and crucifying us on the attack.
Yeah.
That was obvious from the first 10 minutes alone.
Yeah.
Sid Donnelly follows up by having a go at Rodgers, saying a truly elite manager is tactically aware. Rodgers is not, nor has he ever been an elite manager. He blew the title when he was at Liverpool. He won the FA Cup and then relegated Leicester. Returned to the only league where his shortcomings as a manager are not continually exposed. He believes his own hype and completely devoid of any sense of his limitations. And final one from William Irvin. Celtic are a great Scottish team, but in recent years they've been clueless when facing European opposition. Brendan is out of his depth at this level, and they will repeatedly get spanked if they don't change their business model and invest in European competition. Sorry, actually one more, Keith, sorry. Joe Mack, Celtic fan for over 60 years. The blame for this result lies at the manager's door. The board have backed him, so unlike previous defeats, it proved to me this guy is not a top manager. It's fine defeating smaller teams week in, week out, but the guy hasn't a clue at Champions League level. Go now before you damage the club even more.
Wow.
So the response has been pretty vociferous.
I've been critical there, obviously. And I will be critical because he deserves to be criticised. I mean, he talks there afterwards. One of the comments there mentioned level. If Brendan Rodgers used that word once, he must have used it about 15 or 16 times over the course of the 8 minutes of his post-match interview. And it was almost as if, by saying, oh, it's the level, it was almost as if he was trying to say that as a manager, he's powerless to do anything about the level, whatever that is. It almost sounds as if he was trying to say he's getting thrown into the managerial Bermuda Triangle and there's nothing they can do apart from be a hostage to fate. That's not right. And we've seen it's not right. Managers have a responsibility to assess what they've got at their disposal and what they're coming up against on the other side of the pitch, and then work out what you're going to do to combat it. And I'm afraid that, putting the same system together and same selection together as you did at St Johnstone and keeping your fingers crossed that you might somehow make a game of it against a side like Borussia Dortmund, that's just not going to work. And unfortunately for Brendan Rodgers, he said that that's what he wanted to do the first time around, but he gets scalped so many times that it doesn't wash anymore. There is an obligation on him to work out a better formation, system, style of play, approach, tactical approach to how he plays against these big teams in Europe. And as Michael said earlier on, he doesn't have that long to work it out, because in 3 weeks' time, they're going to face a team who I believe is of a very, very similar quality to the one that they faced last night.
Mm-hmm. See, just going on that, Keith, I think you make a really good point in the sense that, say what you want about, Neil Lennon, Gordon Strachan, Martin O'Neill, they all adapted. They all played against these teams as well.
Adapt or die.
Exactly.
Listen, I'll give you the perfect example. Walter Smith took a Rangers team that was probably one of the least talented Rangers teams that he had over his 2 terms as the manager at Ibrox, and he took that all the way to a European final. They weren't very nice to watch. They were made your eyes bleed. But Walter Smith worked out what he had to do in order to push that team forward and to help it survive and adapt at that level. And that's what good management's all about. It's all very well looking good and, in a sense, I wouldn't go as far as to say Celtic are pushing at an open door in the domestic scene, although they kind of are. But the real test for Brendan Rodgers is, how do I change? How do I protect my players when they're in a scenario as dangerous as this one? And time again, he's coming up short, and he really has to do something to correct that.
Brian Wilson here on Facebook says, we were gubbed by a vastly superior team. There's no way any team in Scotland could live with Dortmund. They're not even the best team in Germany. It was 7-1, but it could have been a lot more. And just on that, Keith, the whole idea that it sounds mad to say, it could have been 10, 11, 12-1. And you mentioned it in your chat with Mick. Say it had gone that way.
I don't know if you survive that as a manager.
Aye, that's what I was going to ask. You really think?
Even though he's got so much credit in the bank in terms of the football that he's got, Celtic playing, the amount of trophies that are stockpiled up in the boardroom. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst took a 7-1 at home to Liverpool, and he never really survived that. And by the way, only a few months earlier, he'd taken Rangers all the way to Seville in a Europa League final, which is a big tick in the box that Brendan Rodgers doesn't have. But Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was never recovering from 7-1. I don't think it's the same for Brendan Rodgers. I don't. But had it gone to 8, 9, 10, double figures, 11, 12, and it could have done, I'm just not sure that you survive that.
The thing is as well that, as you can probably, accept, a lot of fans, Rangers fans and other fans of other clubs, Rangers easy okay, beating Dortmund isn't for everyone, I suppose. They're quite gleeful at Celtic's disastrous display last night. But I would just say, I mean, if Celtic take a gubbin like that, what does it say about the rest of Scottish football? Because Celtic are absolutely strolling it, haven't even conceded a goal in the Premiership. So,
yeah.
aye.
But I think it points to either a naivety or an arrogance in the way they set up. Celtic shouldn't be getting their arse handed to them like that. It just shouldn't be happening.
Do you think Keith Rodgers will make a change for the Atalanta game and going forward?
He absolutely has to. He has to use a different approach. There has to be a more pragmatic game plan, because it's not good enough just to say, do you know what, we're killing everybody, we're ripping everybody to shreds in Scottish football. Let's just go and do the same thing here. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And if he wants to, he should go and look at the game I'm talking about, or the Europa League final for that matter. Atalanta are absolutely sensational.
Yeah.
When they've got the momentum up and when they're attacking at teams. The performance, as I said, at Anfield last season actually took the breath away at moments. They are really dangerous. And if Celtic go into that match as open as they went into the last night's, they're going to have big problems.
William Sloan, watching live on YouTube, says he won't. He should, but he won't. I think he's referring to Brendan Rodgers changing his idea. And see, to be honest, you're spot on everything you say, Keith. I could see Rodgers sticking to his guns because no.
I think he has to. I mean, it's happened too many times. That's the third time Celtic have shipped 7 goals in a Champions League game.
But that's what I mean. He's not changed previously. That's what makes me think.
I just wonder if he thought things was going to be different this time round. That he's got a better squad. That he's got a really talented team. That the momentum's high. That they're flying. That they can go into this game and throw a few punches and see if they can bloody a nose or two. I think maybe that was in his head going into the match. It can't be in his head going into the next one. He has to go over there and think, do you know what? It doesn't really matter if we lose this with a 2-1 or 2-0, even a 3-0, as long as we perform well, as long as the team's structured and it looks more like a team capable of being robust at this level. That doesn't matter because he's still got the 3 points in the bag from Bratislava. They're still in a good position.
Yeah.
But what matters is if they go there and they get their credibility splattered all over the place as they did last night.
Yeah.
It can't happen again.